Now, Charlie Levy is going to bring us up to date on the tropical weather.
Under the storm, here are the heavy rain bands. You can see all the rain extending through the Big Bend country of Florida. That's going to persist. The storm is showing some eastward movement now, and that means that the closer it gets to land, the more of these rain bands will circulate around. And so that's going to be the big problem for the next several hours. There's going to be the rain. There'll be a lot of flooding. And, of course, we'll keep an eye on the movement of the storm as well. Quickly,
course, which is towards the east and slightly northeast, around 7 to 10 miles an hour, that it could make landfall in through this region. Here's our live color radar. Take a look at the heavy squalls across the northeastern quadrant of that storm. There is a hurricane warning from Panama City to Sarasota, Florida. Now, 10 counties have been forced to evacuate. Those living in the low-lying areas, those counties include Hillsborough, Pinella, Manatee, Sarasota, Pasco. As a matter of fact, in Pasco County, just about an hour ago, the police cited a tornado in that area. Let's go ahead and take a look at our satellite picture. Take a look at all the cloud cover that
radar in motion out of Apalachicola. You can see the thunderstorms and showers moving around the storm system in a counterclockwise circulation. Very, very heavy squall line now just to the east of Apalachicola, moving on through the region, and thus those very strong wind gusts Bill mentioned. See the heavier showers also now throughout Appalachia Bay and all the way on up into South Georgia. But you see the motion of the eye of the storm is generally now in an east-northeast direction at 10 miles per hour. It's pretty much maintaining that same speed and direction over the past 8 to 10 hours. Let's move a little bit farther north in the system. Rain showers to the west of Daytona Beach, right on top of Orlando. Heavy squall lines moving on through Tampa Bay and Clearwater and all the way down to near Fort Myers, too. And you can see just the eastern end of the eye itself as the storm system continues to chug away back to the east. With a continuation of the tropical update, back to Bill.
With the heavier rains just to the west of Tampa, St. Petersburg now, filtering out right on down through the Fort Myers area. Also, these bands, you take the continuation from Fort Myers right on across the state to around Vero Beach, relatively heavy, having passed east of Daytona Beach now, and most of the central section of Florida seeing either light rain, showers, or rather hefty thunderstorms as well. All of this is tending to move toward the northeast at about 10 miles an hour. Highest tops in this area up to about 38,000 feet, and of course very gusty winds anywhere from 40 to 50 miles an hour in association with all this action.
Force of the storm will hit land. Forecasters cannot say for sure. At this point, they just have to wait. Our coverage starts with Peter Van Sant in Ocala, Florida.
Hurricane Elena tonight is taunting the west central Florida coast with high winds and rough seas, but has not begun her expected final move. After picking up speed last night and this morning, Elena shifted into neutral, floundering off the coast. But while the main body of the hurricane remains offshore, Elena's outer storm bands moved inland. Elena is drenching central Florida with torrential rains, up to 15 inches in some places. In the Tampa-St. Petersburg area, dozens of homes were flooded.
Yeah, I tell you, everything we have in there is gone. Yeah. We've been out here for 24 years. I've never seen anything like this before.
Others tried to save their homes.
No, we're going to stay there and try to keep out the water the best we can. And if it's going to float away,
we'll float with it.
Elena also spawned several tornadoes across central Florida. One touchdown near Ocala, destroying many homes.
At this point, I don't have a firm count. We know for sure that 7 people have been taken to local hospitals. The damage, of course, is quite extensive.
Elena has caused some coastal flooding as the storm pushes Gulf waters on shore. More than 500,000 Florida residents have left their homes for safer ground. Others, like these church members, have banded together to ride out the storm.
It was the largest evacuation.
At many mobile homes, and officials believe the worst is still to come. Most of the 750 residents of the Key have been evacuated.
Here proudly call their Golden Coast. This is Cedar Key, the bullseye of Hurricane Elena. It's a national wildlife refuge with not many people living here, but some 20 people have refused to evacuate, and emergency teams are considering a rescue.
Even more rain soon.
Is in position to try and get across the high water, but
I don't really see how you can force a person out of his home. If he does not want to go, you can't bodily pick him up. You can't arrest him for refusing to leave.
But most did what many would consider the sensible thing.
There is no use running away. The Moors have just packed in a few supplies.
Island community, despite reports it was in Elena's path.
I think they should get out, but you can't make them get out. So I wouldn't want to be in there.
Even with Elena still offshore, much of Cedar Key is underwater. But the menacing winds and rising tides were not enough to convince Richard Rain and his 10 family members to leave home.
Because everything I got out here I'm about to lose, and I can keep my boats afloat if I stay here, and if I leave, everything I got's gone.
Rain says he has survived 4 hurricanes in this house, and he expects to survive Elena.
Causing tremendous destruction. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, Cedar Key, Florida.
Those to evacuate the coast are gambling with their lives.
Gale force winds and heavy rains have forced the evacuation of some 300,000 residents.
Sure, I'm worried. The director of the National Hurricane Center in Miami is standing by with us now. Dr. Frank, why is this one proving so difficult to predict what and when it is going to hit land?
Well, hurricanes move along in rivers of air just like blocks of wood move along in rivers of water. And anytime the river dries up or is moving very slowly, then it's very difficult to see where that block of wood is going, and so it is in the atmosphere. This hurricane, we got a serious dilemma this afternoon, is the river of air has now dried up again, and we've got a storm that's essentially stalled. It just hasn't moved any place in the last 5 or 6 hours.
Is there any indication as to whether this one is going to last? Will it, in fact, perhaps peter out there where it is, or can you even tell that yet?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, you can go back in 1950, and we had a storm by the name of Easy that stayed at about the same location that this one is for 2.5 days, rains 30-some inches in Yankeetown, so we've got a serious dilemma unless the storm would move far enough offshore that we would get some relief. You know, hurricanes are like tops. They just spin around when there's nothing moving them in any direction, and that's what this storm is probably going to do for the next several hours.
All right, Dr. Frank, thank you very much. We'll have the other word.
The latest is that Elena just isn't going anywhere. Tampa. Just come to a halt. It's sitting in one place. If we look at this map, this radar screen, it shows the latest movements of Elena. This red line here shows how it's moved over the last 2 days. This is what happened last night. It took that sharp right turn you mentioned before towards the coast until it got the eye of the storm, which we see right there, got to that point, which is about 50 miles off the coast, and it's been there all afternoon and into the evening. But it's close enough to the shore to be doing a lot of damage, which we saw in the earlier reports. The circular motion here is pushing a lot of water, a lot of heavy rains up into the Florida coast, particularly here into the Tampa Bay area. Just keeps pushing a lot of water up there, causing more and more flooding.
Is it true that the longer it stays offshore, the more intense it becomes?
That's sometimes true for hurricanes, but when they get this close to the shore, it's not necessarily true. And this
to the northeast at about 14 miles an hour, while the individual cells are moving toward the north briskly at 22. Highest tops in the area up to about 42,000 feet.
Distinct. Radar indications say the eye is becoming more distinct, and that is a sign of a slightly intensifying hurricane. So the bad news for Florida is conditions probably not going to change for the next several hours. Latest position, 28 center, with swirls of clouds, still a very, very potent storm, and we'll keep an eye on it with another update in about 30 minutes. Elsewhere.
And Elena has already claimed its first victim.
Believed a few people may not have left. Levy County deputies are searching the island, hoping to secure it, although getting back to the mainland may be tricky. Even before the full force of Elena arrived, sustained winds of 40 miles an hour already turned the intercoastal into a raging torrent. That torrent pounded the connecting bridge. State highway workers have tried to slow the flow, but Billy Steedley said they didn't have much luck.
Yeah, we were trying to put some riprap down where it was kind of eroding the pavement out, and it's already eat up probably 6 or 8 foot of the northbound lane.
The flooding in the road into Cedar Key now is about 2 miles back and rising, with the wind continuing to push the water. Most residents are anxious about the delays in Elena's landing, but they're well inland, safe in shelters, like the one at Williston High School. Here
and Apalachicola indicate that the center of Hurricane Elena remains nearly stationary. Weak steering currents will delay the potential arrival of the center on the coast. It is now 50 miles southwest of Cedar Key. Satellite photograph will show us the latest coordinates as of 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Turned into an odyssey, the leading edge of the storm was warning enough of the fury waiting to strike. Conditions such as these give some idea why residents of Florida's Gulf Coast take Hurricane Elena very seriously indeed. Heavy rain squalls, gusty winds, down power lines, electricity out. All of this while the storm sat stalled over the Gulf of Mexico. It gives meaning to Governor Bob Graham's mandatory evacuation order, when he warned if Elena was to cross the coast of Florida, residents who refused to be evacuated faced almost certain death. There were holdouts, people vowing to wait out the storm. In the town of Gina, a family grocery store stayed open for business just a few miles from the Gulf.
I think we're the only one that's right around here right now.
Marguerite Smith and her daughter were reluctant to leave until the last possible moment.
I want to stay because I've got so much at stake here. But if it comes necessary, I mean, really.